It's just so beautiful to be here in such a strong circle. And it's an honor to be here representing Nuevo Mexico and water. And so we'd like to start just by playing a little flute to kind of think about water within and without, and just send good positive vibes to all the water that creates life on this earth. We got a saying in Spanish, El agua es la vida, which translates, water is life, right? And without water, there would be no life. So I'm just gonna play a little flute. It's a time where we can kind of ground in the space, feel the circle, feel our water communicating with each other through vibrations, through thoughts, through waves. We are water. Water is life. So we'll just play a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the panel. So one more thing.
Hi guys, everybody in this room. My name is Javier Matthew Carrasco. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, for those of you who don't know. So what water means to me. So recently I've been going through a lot of science classes because my degree is a biology degree, and I've been learning more and more about basic chemistry, basic biology, and then through these classes I've really come to realize the significance of water, the fact that really water is life, the fact that in every single one of our DNA, we are linked together through hydrogen bonds. And when you're looking at water in a cup, when you're looking at water in the ocean, when you're looking at water in any which way, the way that it reacts with its environment is the same way that it reacts within you. And I like to think that a little further, that it's the way that we react with each other. A hydrogen bond is one of the strongest bonds you can make. And I feel like when I make a deep connection with somebody, I'm making a hydrogen bond with them. Mm-hmm.
I'm also from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I work with Grow the Future. And I've lived in New Mexico my whole life. And New Mexico is a desert, right? And so being in that kind of atmosphere where water is kind of scarce, I can't really remember a time when we haven't been in a drought. Maybe sometimes in the summer when we get rain and it's moderate drought, but I just really, through that experience, I've learned that water get rain. It's an experience. Everyone gets excited. We're finally seeing rain after all this time. I've really learned, like, water, it's not a toy. It's not just here for swimming pools or for whatever you want. It's really something you need to value, because in the future, more people, everyone needs water.
My name is Tawanda Petty. I am part of a lot of orgs, but more prominently regarding water, I am a member of the People's Water Board Coalition, as well as We the People of Detroit and Detroiters Resisting Emergency Management. So I work on pretty much every aspect of the water struggle in Detroit. And I'm with these family members down here. Water is literally life. I mean, and a lot of people say water is life, and they don't recognize that the opposite of that is death. So a lot of people say, like, I can feel it in their soul when they talk, how much water means to them. But even with us having water shut off to people, 2,000 and 3,000 people a week, we still take it for granted. We still take it for granted because it still falls from the sky, and we still have, at the end of the day, we still have options that a lot of places don't have. And so a part of the awareness is not just resisting the outside systems, but also transforming how we function and how we view water too. So water is everything. There isn't a living being on this earth that can live without water.
Good.
I guess I never really thought about like how important water was until like last year. Yeah, when
everybody in our neighborhood off for like no reason. Like even people with their bills paid was getting cut off and stuff. And like I really didn't think it was that important until people was like going crazy about it. And she told me about it. I got really interested in it. Struggle life.
I'm Valerie Jean. Water means I can feed my kids at night. It means I can bathe them. Water means that that they have everything that they need. I like to think about water carrying great memory. When I first met Travis, he played his flute to the snow in front of my house, gathered it up, and stuck it in a bottle. It was an extraordinary experience. Even put a little thing of tobacco, I mean the whole 9 yards. He was taking that back to New Mexico so the water in Detroit could talk and speak and communicate with the water in New Mexico. And that for me symbolizes water carrying memory, carrying our stories, what we do to it. And if water carries a memory, then we have to think about all the memories that it's carrying from pollution and industry and all of those things that that we're going to have to like balance out, right? We're not going to be able to do those things anymore because water remembers it, right? So water is memory. It's also a great migration right now. With California being without water, all the capitalists are getting together. Excuse me. Thank you. All the capitalists are getting together and saying, where's all the water? Right here. And they know that those people are moving this way. So water is a great migration because the people who don't have it are going to move to a place that has it. And we hold 20% of the water, freshwater resources in the world right here in Michigan. So that's what it means to me.
So I'd like to preface this with one of my ancestors, Charity Hicks. And so she joined the ancestors about almost exactly a year ago. And she was a founding member of the People's Water Board Coalition because she's an avid resistor of all things anti-environmental justice. And so she was one of the first people who knew about this massive water shutoff campaign that was going to happen in the city. And so it's not the first time they've done it, but it's the first time it's been on this scale. And it's been a long time since they've gone through and just shut thousands of people off. And so they came to Charity's block street around like 7 o'clock in the morning. They started turning people off on her block, and so her house was one of those houses. And so she ran outside, half dressed, and she said, "What are you doing?" And there was a contractor out there, a Hamrick contractor, and he, told her he was there to turn the water off. And so she saw that he had marked up all these houses on her street, and she proceeded to tell him that the woman next door is pregnant, and there's a woman down the street who is on oxygen. Let me run to these houses and let them know that you're going to turn their water off. And he said no. So she resisted him. And they got into a tussle. She injured herself. And he called the police. No, she called the police. Excuse me. She said, I'm going to call the police. My water bill is current. I don't know what their situation is, but water is life. You can't do this. So she called the police, but ultimately they arrested her. And so they ended up taking her. This was another thing she brought to life. They took her like 45 minutes away. They didn't even take her to a local precinct. They took her to like a room probably smaller than this with like 65 women in it. And, her foot was cut. It was blood all over the floor. They didn't give her anything to bandage her foot or, clean water or anything. She spent the night in jail. And so immediately when she got out of prison, she sounded the alarm. you know, and she let everybody know, you know, this is what's coming up the pike. They came down my street, they turned everybody's water off, they wouldn't let me warn my neighbors, you know, we got to do something. And we literally had her for days. I mean, we lost her within days. She went to the U.S. Social Forum to speak on water, and she was run down by a driver who ran up on a curb. So I say all that to say that, you know, I'm not going to pretend that this work is going to be easy. I'm not going to pretend that we won't lose people in this struggle. We have historically. But water, fighting for water, it is our responsibility. You know, one of our other water warriors, Monica Lewis Patrick, would tell you that it is not your fault, but it is your fight. So you have to fight for water. You have to give everything you have so that people can live. You have to live simply so other people can simply live. And that's not my quote. But so basically they've been cutting off water 2,000 to 3,000 people a week. They go through and turn off whole blocks. There are contractors that are paid $6 million to shut water off, and they're paid off by the house. So sometimes they don't even care. You know, they go through and they're like, I get money for each house that I turn off. And so this is like a multi-million dollar business for them. And these are the same contractors that after your house is condemned, they get to get the demolition contract as well. So so it's a lot deeper than, you know, just people not paying their bills.
Valerie, do you want to follow up?
And like she said in the beginning, in 2014, Charity sounded the alarm. We paid pretty close attention to it. We started setting up weekly protests in front of the DWSD, Freedom Fridays, we called them. We started doing a lot of outreach in the neighborhood and trying to understand what it would mean for people to get water and how we were going to get water to that many people without it, and how we would find the volunteers and all that happening. So by March, it was in full swing. They started, March of 2014, they started shutting off 3,000 people a week. They were doing it purposely in the morning so that even though it was against the law for them to do it purposely in the morning, the DWSD is supposed to knock on your door first and say, you know, are you in dispute of your bill, you know, before they shut you off. But of course, they've hired this company, and this company does not care. Like she said, they get paid by the water shut off, each one. So we started protesting and shutting stuff down. We stopped the trucks one day coming out of Homrick. January 14th, they came to my, July 14th, they came to my block. It was about 6 in the morning, a little after 6. And I was making coffee. I get up to meditate every morning. I knew that I was in jeopardy of getting my water shut off. We had been having a hard time making ends meet for a very, very long time. The money's been funneled out of the city for a long time. Since 2008, all of us have been having a hard time making it. So I knew that I was in jeopardy. I looked out the window. I saw a big red Homrich truck there. It said Detroit Water Collections Project on it. Yeah, so I grabbed my camera and my phone. I started, I rushed outside the second I hit my porch. I just let them know in a really firm voice, you're not going to shut me off today. I rushed over my water meter. I stood there. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. He had the water key in his hand. He had already spray painted a blue line. Now, the blue lines are very significant. If you go to my neighborhood still to this day, you'll see them. Everybody who was slated for a water shut-off got a blue line in front of their house. So everybody would know you got your water shut off. It was easy for Homrick to find the water access points with the blue lines on them. He had already sprayed my blue line. He had the water access, and he just kind of turned around. It's like, okay, put the water key in his car, and proceeded to head across the street and shut my neighbor off, go across the street, shut my other neighbor off, and systematically for 45 minutes shut my entire neighborhood off. I mean, screaming, that lady's got, she's 89 years old, you know, and he's like, you know, I'm doing it. This is my job. As I was still standing on my water access point, a most extraordinary thing happened. Social media. We've been working on this. I'm connected to a huge community in Detroit. I put one Facebook stat out and said that Hamrick came to shut off my whole neighborhood. We find ourselves in these moments. Within an hour, there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water in my front yard. People from all over Detroit contributed. All of the People's Water Board responded and brought water. People from Ohio drove up and dropped off water. It became really, really clear within that hour that there was a lot more to worry about than just people without water, right? People were really, as you were knocking on the door, people were really, really worried about germs and passing germs. So I put a call out on Facebook. People started delivering bleach, hand sanitizers, baby wipes. Isabella and I sat for a whole day putting together small packets, and she passed them out to everybody that came to get water. There was no questions asked. She was a National Geographic for that. There was no questions asked. People were allowed to walk up and get what they need and take it back. By the end of the day, we realized that the water that people were taking, they were going to make a decision on whether they were going to wash themselves with it, or whether they were going to wash dishes and cook with it, or what they were going to do with it, whether they were going to clean their houses. They had all of these things. So because cooking was a thing, we set up a community pot of soup, just a propane eye, and people came by for 2 weeks straight and dropped. Kids opened up cans of beans, brought chopped vegetables. It was an ongoing pot of soup that everybody contributed to. About 5 days in, after complete despair, we decided we were going to fight back. We'd been meeting in the streets. We weren't sure just small meetings in the streets, all, neighborhoods, neighbors at different times. About 5 days in, we decided we needed to organize a march. We contacted every organization to help. And within we organized it about 2 or 3 days later. A few hundred people showed up at the end of my street. It was really, really, really unique. I've been in marches, but it was really unique to march with my community and the activist community past my house that day. And as we passed my house, I felt a real sense of community. I knew that we'd be okay because we were coming together. We did it specifically during rush hour so that we could shut down Woodward, and that's what we did. I've got pictures of all my kids and the whole neighborhood. Shutting down Woodward at rush hour. We marched for about a mile down to a cafe where we had a community dinner. And it was then where people started talking about what would a neighborhood response team look like? What would neighborhood hubs that responded to water shutoffs look like? It was our first kind of conversations about that. From that point forward, it's been this struggle to bring people together. It's not natural for people to trust people. So there's these things that we're still building these trusts. But pretty much all of this is being done because they want to privatize the water. They want to force us into privatizing the water. A company named Veolia, horrific company. It's the exact same company that runs the apartheid rail in and out of Gaza, and only people from Israel can ride it. So, if you're a Palestinian, forget it. That's the exact same company that is in control of our water right now. That company is buying up water all over the world. They realize and know very clearly that water is the new oil, right? It's the thing that we're going to need, and it's going to be very scarce. So you do all these mass water shutoffs, right? And you've got this open, we must need privatization. The president swoops in, they need to privatize this stuff. Everybody's like, yep, all the higher ups. So Veolia is the exact same entity that has started raising water rates. The people in Highland Park, I live one street outside of Highland Park. Highland Park is a small city in the middle of Detroit. The people of Highland Park recently got 138% water hike. 138%. Like overnight, their city council literally sent them to the bottom of the river. Sank them. These people already had $2,000 to $3,000 water bills. They're going to be, their water bills are more than their houses are worth. So this is, yeah, Veolia comes in, they raise the water rates. Right now we're fighting because the Detroit City Council said that they weren't going to raise the water rates when Veolia asked them to, but now they are back in session a week later and like, oh, maybe we will. Maybe we'll decide it. They're going to vote on it again, which is going to push their hand. But almost always they go towards the corporation, right? Half of the money that is made by the Detroit Water Department.
Like Emma said, it's the desert, but it's also a really beautiful, lush place. And it's because people have cared for the water. And so we got an ancient water system called acequias. Can you say it with me?
Acequias.
And acequias is an ancient technology that was brought up by the Spanish back in the late 1500s, early 1600s. And even before that, when the Moors were in Spain, it was actually brought to Spain. So it's actually an African, Middle Eastern technology that came around the world over a series of a couple hundred years. There's a town in Spain, Valencia, a city. They've been irrigating with their acequias for 800 years. And there's a spot that for the last 800 years, the community has met like this to talk about water every single Thursday for the last 800 years. So it's pretty cool. That's how old the technology is. And so going to New Mexico, we've been doing it for a couple hundred years. And those acequias have helped bring life to our landscape. We call acequias the veins of Mother Earth, right? That bring the lifeblood of Mother Earth, which is water, to our communities. Just recently, we sent a delegation from New Mexico to Spain, and we got to meet. And my maestros, our leaders, our water warriors, got to go and learn and really internationalize this water connection. And we were given an hermanamiento. So hermano in Spanish is brother or sister, hermana. So an hermanamiento is this brotherly, sisterly connection through water. And so we're here today from New Mexico to create our kind of informal hermanamiento with Detroit. So it's an honor to be here. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Mateo.
You guys probably, I'm probably okay. And something else I wanted to say real quick is I really do not like reading to public, so I'm sorry if I mess up. But bear with me, guys. Okay. So the mission statement for the New Mexico Acequia Association. The mission of the New Mexico Acequia Association is to protect water in our acequias, grow healthy food for our families and communities, and to honor our culture. Vision statement. In our vision, acequias flow with clean water. People work together to grow food, and communities celebrate cultural and spiritual connections. People honor acequias as part of our heritage and express querencia. Knowledge and experience about growing food, sharing water, and saving seed are passed on from generation to generation. Guided by our core values, the New Mexico Acequia Association grows a movement of people of all ages and walks of life to defend and protect our precious water by resisting its commodification and contamination. Through involvement in NMAA, families and youth are inspired to cultivate land, care for our acequias, and heal past injustices. Communities have an abundance of healthy, locally grown food because we recognize agriculture as a respected and dignified livelihood and way to live. All right.
So Mateo's about to read the Declaration of Core Values. So in 2010, a group of what we call acequieros, so people that use the acequia and work with the water, came together in our annual congreso, like a congress of acequias, to create these core values. And so this is coming, we want to give love to the New Mexico Acequia Association, all our elders and the acequieros that came together and Mateo's going to present that.
Okay. All right. So first, we honor the connection between water, land, life, and community. We believe that our acequias express the value of our culture and identity as a land-based people. Just as our esencia came from generations before us, we now have the responsibility of passing on our traditions to youth and future generations. Two, for generations, the well-being of our communities has been sustained by sharing for the benefit of the common good, a tradition known as through our acequias, we have shared scarce water between our families, we have shared food and seed, and through our labor, we have helped one another. La acequia cleaning, sacando la acequia, is an example of the shared work inherent to our way of life. Three, we view water as don divino, or divine gift from God, and as a common resource that sustains all life. Making a profit from selling water rights is a form of disrespect to our ancestors, our core values, our way of life, and our children and grandchildren. 4. Water rights should remain connected to that acequia to nurture agricultural traditions, to replenish aquifers, and to support the green ribbons of life along our rivers. 5. We respect the traditional knowledge of our elders which guides the day-to-day operation of acequias, the cultivation of ancestral crops, and care for our animals. 6. The worldview that treats land, water, and food as commodities threatens the continued life of our communities. The pressure to move water out of agriculture threatens to unravel acequias and the fabric of our communities. 7. We believe that we have the power to grow our own food locally rather than importing most of our food through industrial food systems, and that this local food should be available and affordable to all our families, not only the world. 8. We believe that our ability to grow our own food and the water from our acequias, the land of our families, and the seeds of our ancestors make us a free people. Our self-determination depends on retaining our ancestral lands and water under the stewardship that we inherited from our parents and grandparents. 9. We believe that our acequias will remain resilient by remaining rooted in centuries of tradition, while we also involve new community members who embrace the culture and customs intertwined with our acequias. And finally, 10. We seek to strengthen and revitalize our acequias so that we can build vibrant and healthy communities in which we grow more of our own food and we govern and manage our waters for the benefit of our
Like, we got a lot of copy of that. I'm just saying.
What a wild ride. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my experience with acequias. So the first time that I ever used an acequia, I had absolutely no idea what I was in for. One day I was at the farm, working, and what ended up happening was our maestro, Lorenzo, came up to me and was like, hey, you know what, come with me. And instead of doing this over here, I want you to come over and help me out. I'm over here sitting here like, did I get in trouble? What did I do? Did I pull something out that I wasn't supposed to? How long had it been growing there? And he ended up taking me back to the acequia and teaching me how to use it and how exactly it is used. I have never in my life known anything about acequias. I grew up in El Paso. I grew up in the suburb. I think El Paso's second worst in terms of sustainability behind Phoenix. In all honesty, we have no water. The only water we have there is the Rio Grande, and that's just a trickle between Juarez and El Paso. So I go back here and Lorenzo's showing me how to use this acequia and how our ancestors have used this acequia. And I'm in complete awe because not only am I tired from moving more than I've ever moved in my life and stumbling over all kinds of little islands, I didn't realize the full extent of what this acequia meant until we had finished irrigating how many rows? Maybe like 30 rows of blue corn that ran maybe 300 feet. And we finished the day, and I'm all dirty and I'm battered. I have no idea what exactly happened. So it's hot. New Mexico is really hot. And when we finish, we have this huge flooded plain, and Travis comes out, brings out his fruit, and blesses the irrigation that we just did. And it was then that I realized what I had just done and what I had just become a part of. It was then that I became a small patch. And it was so impactful for me that.
Alright, so I'm gonna start by I just graduated high school and class of 2015 in Alright. So right, let's bring it back. Okay, so for one of my projects I had to do my senior project, which connected me with Travis here, connected me to the farm, and that's how I got involved with that. And another part of that was at the end of the year I had to write a 10-page research paper about some kind of issue that related to our senior project. And so I chose to write about the water issues. It was at a time where I heard Travis talking about a lot of different issues, and it just inspired me so much. I was ready to write this paper. And so I talked about a lot of different things. I talked about water as a commodity versus just being a resource. I talked about hydraulic fracturing. That's something going on not just in New Mexico but everywhere. And that one was especially important because our water resources are so limited. I talked about drought in New Mexico. I talked about how that affects the forest and the wildfires. I talked about all kinds of different things. But one thing in particular I wanted to talk about today was jet fuel spill. So out in Albuquerque, we have a military base there. It's Kirtland Air Force Base, and that's probably the biggest employer, one of the biggest employers in Albuquerque. And so, at Kirtland Air Force Base, back in the 40s, they had built this system of pipes and tanks that kind of transported the jet fuel from place to place on base. And so I wrote about that in my paper. And so it was about 10 years after the system had been built in the 50s when they noticed there was some kind of leaks going on. So they're like, okay, we'll just fix this up. And for about 40 years, they thought it was fine. And it wasn't until the 90s when they realized that there was a huge amount of jet fuel just spilled out into the Mexico. And so we still don't know exactly when that happened or what started it or why, but we know there's just so much jet fuel. And that was about 92 when we realized that. So now going into the future, we were trying to get the EPA, somebody to come out, look at it, address this issue, figure out how much jet fuel is in there. And we couldn't really get that going until 99. And that was when they did a pressure test, finally, and discovered that there were 100,000 gallons of fuel that were missing that should have been there. And so this information was something that Kirtland tried to hide their force. They tried to keep this under perhaps just to make sure people didn't know. But it wasn't for long. About a year later, independent newspaper Albuquerque Alabama wrote a story about it, and that kind of sparked more discussion about it. People started getting aware that this had happened. And so in 2006, there was a well drill to kind of check out how much fuel was still there. And there's a lot of different numbers put out. So there was, some people had said it was 1 to 2 million gallons of jet fuel, but Kirtland Air Force Base estimated it at 8 million gallons. And so in 2008, there was another release of what size it was at, and that was 24 million gallons. So there's just so much fuel, and this jet fuel, it's a toxic substance. It was definitely a lot of old jet fuel in the 40s. Who knows what was even in that? A lot of kind of toxic stuff that's probably illegal now. One of those chemicals is ethylene dibromide or EDB, and this chemical is particularly very toxic. It used to be added to all kinds of things, like fertilizers and foods, and it's been banned for quite a while now. So that's one of the reasons it's not around anymore. And they did research on it in the 1970s, when this was exposed to their skins, they found lesions and tumors widespread all over the skin, starting down. When they orally, there were tumors in the stomach and the throat, in the lungs through inhalation of the fumes from this. It totally destroys the nasal cavity. And so I'm particularly very passionate about this issue. When about a couple years ago was when I really started getting involved in activism in my city. And the first meeting I ever went to with the group that I work with out there, Answer Coalition, it was a panel. They were talking about different environmental issues in New Mexico, and the jet fuel spill was one of them. And it was kind of